Hello fun people, I'm Isaac Carlson. Here we discuss fun topics for fun people, and today we are examining the mystery of Donald Duck's fourth nephew, who is Huey, Dewey, and Louie's fourth brother, Phooey Duck. And of course, if you're new here, consider joining the magic by subscribing.
I've uncovered a conspiracy! Photographic evidence proves that there is a fourth triplet, a quadruplet, if you will.
While in DuckTales, Dewey became convinced there was a fourth triplet out in the world, even after Scrooge pointed out that the extra egg Dewey thought he had discovered was just a mustard stain, the legend of Phooey Duck actually kind of arose in a similar way. A few small mistakes led to a massive conspiracy being developed. You see, Phooey first appeared in Disney Comics all the way back in 1959 in the story Mastering the Matterhorn, but it most likely wasn't on purpose. Carl Barks accidentally drew 4 identical ducks in one panel, and that was the first documented appearance of another brother. The error was then repeated by Barks in 1962 in the comic Meddling Around in 1963 in Beach Boy. Again, he wasn't trying to make another character, but these mistakes would inevitably take on a life of their own. Later on in 1976, The Missing Mogul by Bob Gregory showcased a fourth duckling lingering again, which meant the trail of little Phooey appearances was growing, and eventually they would be made internationally. In 1980's River Run by foreign artist Tony Straubel, he visibly depicted all 4 nephews together, instead of just having a shadow or a silhouette or a character that could be explained away as someone who looked similar to Huey, Dewey, and Louie. All 4 nephews of Donald Duck were shown at the same time. This was repeated again by Jose Mascaro in 1984 in The Moving Island. But unlike other mistakes or errors that were building the lore of Phooey Duck, this one was occasionally removed in following reprintings. Clearly, Disney was aware that artists were sometimes adding too many ducks and were willing to make changes when these mistakes became too much to ignore. That fourth nephew wasn't really supposed to be there and definitely would have confused me. A long time ago, there was no way to get quick answers to really niche stuff going on in your fandom. I have to say, I'm happy I'm in a world where we can learn about Phooey Duck after he took on a life of his own in the 1980s. You see, at the same time that a fourth nephew was becoming more prominent in the comics, there's also Disney branded material in magazines that were showing nephews of Donald Duck who people were not familiar with. A French magazine in 1982 showed 5 different boys, and in 1989 in the DuckTales magazine, they showed a little duck next to Huey, Dewey, and Louie who was wearing yellow. Phooey's mysterious place in the Disney lore and his yellow color were slowly being established, but when the world became obsessed with Huey, Dewey, and Louie through DuckTales, that was when the casual fourth nephew appearing was no longer able to be taken at face value. People wanted answers, especially in 1990 when the story The Phantom Lighthouse showed 4 ducklings together in the official Uncle Scrooge magazine. After many fans reached out to the magazine, Bob Foster, the editor of the magazine, admitted that was an amusing error, but went on to jokingly explain there must have been a phantom nephew in that story who he called Phooey. Phooey Duck had officially become the informal fourth nephew that occasionally appeared through artistic error, but eventually in a 1999 comic, Much Ado About Phooey by Lars Jensen, Jack Sutter, and Tino Santonach Hernandez, we were finally given an explanation for Phooey's random appearances. You see, in this comic, Donald broke down that when Huey, Dewey, and Louie were young, they were hit by lightning, which led to spontaneous cell division, which developed into another brother. This other entity, who they called Phooey after the first word that he spoke when he came to life, would sometimes appear as an optical illusion for less than a minute. When he would materialize, he would take on the rest of the brothers' knowledge and personalities for however long he would appear. He was a scientific freak phenomenon who could pop into existence for the briefest of moments. Now, in the canon of the Disney classics, no, Phooey is not really considered a member of the McDuck family, and he's not a nephew for Donald Duck. But in DuckTales, his identity in history was appreciated to the point where he was recognized and was given a chance to get his own moment to shine. In 2017's DuckTales, though, they kind of take a different approach to where Phooey came from. In this story, he's pretty much a figment of Dewey's imagination, who he developed when he was searching for a new family mystery to solve with Webby after his mom returned from space.
We must find Phooey Duck. By the way, I named him Phooey.
Eventually, though, he became so convinced of Phooey's existence that he conjured him up in the dream world until Magica Dispel took over that vision, and he seemed to have been able to convince Webby to include Phooey on her family tree. Phooey is kind of this interesting case study of a character that wasn't really meant to be created, but was thrusted into reality by appearing frequently, garnering fan engagement, and having a variety of creators who had the desire to expand upon him. Little by little, over a few decades, the legend of Phooey Duck grew, and personally, I'm looking forward to seeing where his story will go long into the future. And where do you think that might go? Will he eventually become a true member of the family, or maybe he'll rise as a hidden villain who can disguise as Huey, Dewey, and Louie? Let me know, and also make sure to subscribe for more magical discussions, and thank you to everyone who helps make my videos possible. If you'd like to keep my discussions free for everyone forever, consider joining my community on Patreon, and finally, I hope you have a magical day.